Back home, we say a man who knows zombie takeout must not be all bad.
What's up? Welcome to episode 194 of Zombie
Zombie.
Ticket, the movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, got a little bit of news. This from Cinema Blend. Escape from New York remake to become a trilogy. In an interview with Collider, producer Joel Silver, who's been trying to get the remake off the ground for years now, said, quote, I always liked Kurt's character, the Snake Plissken character, so I've always liked that idea, but we kind of figured out a way to do almost a trilogy of that story.
Oh boy.
And with regard to what inspired the idea, he said, there was a video game that came out a few years ago called Arkham City, which shows how when Gotham became this kind of walled prison and how it became a walled prison. And they never deal with that in the story of Escape from New York. So part of our idea is to kind of see how the city became this walled prison and how Snake Plissken was a hero and how he became not looked at as a hero. And then in the middle of the story would be the movie that we, previously saw about the president's daughter. And then, they did a sequel, Escape from L.A., but I would like to then kind of find a way to have New York go back to a place that we'd like to see what it is today.
Oh, he wants to do a prequel.
Yeah, effectively a prequel, which I'm actually kind of interested in. I like the idea. I don't know about the execution, but I like the idea of seeing how New York was turned into a prison.
What a terribly original idea.
Oh, true.
He's gonna do a prequel.
But, the idea of a trilogy, it didn't work for The Hobbit. It's certainly not going to work for Escape from New York.
Well, The Hobbit, they took one book and stretched it into
true.
3 movies.
He's taking one idea and that nobody wants to see remade and stretching it into 3 movies.
Yeah.
But there are 2 other larger issues here. First off, and as good as I'm sure Arkham City is, I've heard great things about it. I haven't played. I've played the first Arkham game, and it's amazing. Still, video games, movies, not a lot of good crossover there. And also, he invoked Escape from L.A.
Yeah.
Which I think is the much larger issue. Did you see Escape from L.A.?
I couldn't make it through.
I did, yeah. I think we should probably review it at some point just to destroy it, but
I'll give it a shot, yeah.
but no, this shouldn't happen. I mean, he's been trying to get it off the ground for years, so it probably won't. Then again, Akira's back in the news, so you never know. Anyway, on to happier things. This week's movie, which is from 2001, Amelie, and of course the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by lawn gnomes. No matter how comedically they're presented, they're still just plain creepy.
And also brought to you by The Fourth Wall. That's just a suggestion. All right, so we have the life story pretty much. They go from beginning to end. I mean,
Very much so.
They start when she's chromosomes.
Practically.
Yes,
Possibly
they
before
do.
that. With the whole the fly, I think is a little bit before that.
That's true. So before she was even getting her chromosomes,
Mhm.
and they work all the way up to well, I guess when she becomes an adult, almost you could say mentally.
Well,
She's a simple person, yes, and very, very sheltered, and very, very introverted, and there really isn't much detail you can go into here. I mean, they
she likes to imagine that inanimate objects are talking to her. Maybe she actually thinks they're talking to her. There's a diagnosis for that.
well, you see, when I was watching this, or I did read a little bit before getting into this, not much, just like a blurb. And the way they made it sound, a lot of the movie was going to be about like the whole finding the box
Right.
of this other man, whoever used to live in her flat when they were a child, left a box of their belongings or toys or not even just toys, just mementos
Yeah.
or whatever.
Kind of
Kept it
keepsakes.
kept it in a box in like the wall. And the blurb I read pretty much said her entire life changes when she finds this thing.
Yeah.
It, and yeah, it kind of does.
It
It
starts
isn't.
her on a path.
It isn't exactly a cataclysm, though. It isn't. I mean, it is not literally earth-shattering. No, it, it it's more like traveling in space. If you're nudged off by a few degrees, you wind up in a completely different place.
Hmm.
But it's a very subtle thing, and I guess that's what a lot of this movie does come back to. Just very, very subtle things and things you have to pick up on.
And just to get back to the summary,
Well, no,
she
I admit it.
she's watching TV and she finds out that Princess Di passed away. And she drops the top of a perfume bottle. It rolls away, hits a baseboard, knocks it loose, and there she finds the box. And that starts the trajectory of the rest of the movie.
Right. So yeah, she it's a very small plot in the film of her finding this tracking down this man and giving him his stuff back.
Mhm.
But it really doesn't change her all that much because she doesn't meet the dude face to face.
No.
She just leaves it in the phone booth
Mhm.
and kind of watches from afar his reaction of it, but never interacts with him. So it really doesn't have that much of a profound change on her at all.
Hmm.
I mean, it,
The space analogy works perfectly.
right. It sets her on a path, but it takes her a long time. And when I say a long time, this is a 2-hour movie.
2 hours and 1 minute.
To get where she needs to be in life finally.
And remarkably short credits, which only take up about 2 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. But so let's see. Let's sum up some of the other plots here that are going on. We have because a lot of it is just about the characters
Mhm.
in her life. Some of her neighbors. She has this crazy old artist who does copies of Renoir. Um,
Who has brittle bone syndrome, even though it's only referenced at the end when he's
yes.
trying to give her this pep talk.
Well, I think there was something they said that he had it.
Well, he says toward the end he has bones made of glass, and I think when she's first talking about him, she mentions it, and it never becomes relevant beyond that.
Right. It's never relevant at all, really. It's just mentioned in passing in the end. So there's that, and he's kind of a peeper too. They all are. They all are voyeurs. Um,
Literally in one scene.
oh, definitely.
Or
There's
two, actually.
several of them are. All of them in some way or another.
I mean, literally voyeuristic in two scenes specifically, in the normal sense of voyeuristic.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, so he's trying to recreate masterworks. You have this, and of course she winds up interacting with him about some of the subjects in the painting and how it, she's projecting onto the subjects in the paintings herself. And let's see, we have the restaurant she works in and the crazy people that are just hanging out there. There's a failed writer, a hypochondriac, this dude, which I'm not sure what his deal was, who was recording different details.
One of the waitresses was his ex-girlfriend. He had a thing for the tobacconist who worked there. That's about it. I don't know what was up with the recordings.
Well, it's probably one of the most brilliant parts of the movie is that he really didn't have a thing for the tobacconist.
Well, it was kind of manufactured.
Sure. Exactly. It was just completely, by power of suggestion to both of them and to somebody and to another person, it just completely got the ball rolling there. And I guess that was important to her because, she did see what kind of difference she can make on influencing other people if she put her mind to it.
Mm-hmm. Which, given the hallucinations, it's good that this took a positive direction in her life.
but still didn't quite get her where she needed to be in the end.
Yeah, but it could have gone a lot worse if, someone with her condition realizes she can have an impact in the world.
Oh, of course, because that would lead me to our next couple characters we had. We had the grocer
Hmm.
and his assistant,
Yeah.
and this is the assistant was even slower than
Well, I didn't initially get the impression that he's developmentally disabled. I didn't really get that after as the movie went on. He kind of had a bit of a stutter, and he lost the use of his right arm.
Yeah, he was. It was just a more severe degree of introversion
Hmm.
than anybody else had,
Mostly, he just couldn't use his right arm. That's why he was so slow.
which pretty much made him slower. The introversion
Physically slower.
more than anything else. Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
in a lot of cases mentally, but it was just
Yeah.
because of the pressure that the grocer would put on him.
Yeah.
And what she does, of course,
Mhm.
could have turned this movie into a completely different direction.
Oh yeah.
She fucks with the grocer's apartment.
Mhm.
She, somehow gets there's a key lying around to their flat that she copies and goes there and seeing him treat this assistant so badly, wants to fix him
Mhm.
in pretty much the Seinfeldian sense of the word.
Yeah.
So yes, she goes into his apartment and just fucks with things. Like the first scene where you realize he isn't, you know, mentally, there isn't a mental deficiency there, is that when she fucks with, his clock and just completely gets him up hours earlier because
Right.
the idiot never checks his watch until he actually gets to the store to open it.
Mhm.
Uh, he passes out and, of course, leaves the assistant to run things on his own.
Yeah.
And without the grocer standing over him, he does a better job himself.
Mhm.
And see, the last round of characters would be, of course, the object of her desire,
Mhm.
which they apparently knew each other in some remote way.
She passed him on the way to, I think it was her father's place, on a
Uh,
regular basis, and saw him at the photo booth.
They implied when they were younger,
Oh, they did, yes.
they they would flash signals to one another from one side of town to the other, which is
Yeah, yeah.
probably the craziest part of this whole movie if you think about it.
And his place of work was very unexpected for me.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a nice little twist. It was, we'll save that surprise. So yeah, his one of his jobs he does because he does several jobs. Of course, the photo booth being the one most important to our plot.
Well, he doesn't
He
really work there. That's a hobby.
That's true. That was a hobby. You're right.
He
And
has two
finding
other jobs that I noticed.
yeah, right, right. He had two
One's at
other
the
jobs.
amusement park,
Right.
and the
And
other one
so
will lead to, when you see the movie.
so anyway, he has this fascination with photo booths because he keeps finding the picture of a guy who just he always throws his pictures away, and it's this mystery that's driving him nuts. Literally,
Yeah,
I think, just driving him nuts. And he's, often seen on his hands and knees on the floor, picking up scraps of, photos and putting them together in a book. And he
and
accidentally
not just of
drops.
the one guy. There are several people. But pretty much
That's
any
true.
photo that he finds that was ripped up, he'll take and put back together.
He collects. Yes, that's a very emblematic of the movie
Yeah,
of putting
true.
pictures back together. But he drops this accidentally, and she picks it up, and hilarity ensues.
Now, I was kind of dancing around it, but I'm just going to come out and say it.
What?
Amelie, the character,
Yeah.
is straight up psychotic. She imagines inanimate objects are talking to her and telling her to do things. She's watching television and a movie will be subtitled and she'll hear basically the characters talking about her life. This is not
Yes.
just introversion or being a shut-in. This is psychosis. Pretty much textbook.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Which is fascinating because her psychosis leads her, and I mentioned this during the summary, which I deliberately kind of interrupted because I wanted it to meander as much as the movie does.
It- that could that be our impromptu plot summary in Zombie Takeout history? We'll have to time that,
That probably was our only summary, yeah. Um,
but I had to.
yeah. And I derailed it deliberately there and there, here and there.
I even left out the parents
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
gnome.
well, the mother we should probably leave to, when they watch the movie,
Yeah,
because that was quite the gag.
yeah.
Um, yeah, her father has a lawn gnome she basically turns it into the roaming gnome.
This predated the roaming gnome. I had to
It did, okay.
research. Yeah,
I figured they probably took the roaming gnome from this movie.
probably the prank dates back as the latest that we've heard of it is the 1980s.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, it's true. I remember hearing about that, yeah. So they probably took the idea from something that was actually being done, and then I would guarantee you Travelocity, is it Travelocity? Yeah,
Travelocity, yeah.
took it from this movie.
I would think so too, yeah.
But okay, getting back to the very beginning of the film, I loved the whole chaos theory gag at the beginning. They talk about this fly and these two glasses on a tape that are dancing because of the wind is taking this tablecloth, and eventually they get to Amelie's conception, and it was just a nice little chaos theory run.
Yeah, and I did like the backstory,
Hmm.
the obnoxious detail of each person.
It runs a little long, but it's very funny and nicely bizarre.
Right.
The whole narration, particularly the whole likes gag. All the
Yes.
characters they introduce,
Likes
they go into
likes and dislikes.
the narrator goes in these long list of likes and dislikes, and they're just thoroughly bizarre.
And come on, who likes or who doesn't dislike
Hmm.
when they're driving in the movie and obviously not looking at the fucking road?
Yeah. I never really thought about it, but yeah, when
Oh
they showed
hell
it
yeah.
happening immediately after they said that, it was, yeah, kind of annoying. And I was very surprised, speaking of that scene, when she broke the fourth wall for the first time. I don't know
Ah,
why, because it had kind of been done up to that point, but she just egregiously breaks the fourth wall and talks straight to the camera.
oh yeah.
And I was surprised by that.
And it's done in so many random points of the movie where someone breaks the fourth wall.
But that, I think, was the first time it was done that egregiously,
Yeah.
that directly. But with the opening, just for one more thing, it actually makes what's a very tragic story very funny, which was impressive.
Yes.
'Cause her upbringing was dark.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, this could completely have gone the other way. You're exactly right about that, which I think is what makes this good, is that there's a chance that it could go the other way.
yeah. And I loved the revenge she had on when she was young, not the grocer, the other one, on the TV, that gag.
Oh,
She was taking a photo and this accident occurred in front of her.
oh
And
yes, the soccer game.
there was this neighbor who basically said that she was at fault for the accident, and it's possible that the flash of the camera may have distracted one of the drivers. But she took this to mean that every time she took a photo, it caused some tragedy in the world. So as she's watching the news, she's becoming intensely depressed because she thinks she's caused all of these things. And she finds out that that's not the case, and she decides to get some revenge on the guy who blamed her for the accident. He's watching a soccer game, and she's got a radio sitting next to her. She's up on the antenna, and every time just before a goal, she unplugs it. He misses every goal in the game.
Yeah, which is brutal.
Oh yeah.
I'm not even a soccer fan, but I can imagine.
Well, and if you're into any sport,
Yes, any sport.
missing every point that's scored.
He's at the 40, the 30, the 20. Wait, what happened?
And another kind of running gag, I don't know if I would call it a gag, but running character note, they mention she likes to skip stones, which is wonderfully random. But periodically throughout the movie, she'll take stones and just put them in her pocket if they're good for skipping. And they track
Yeah,
throughout the movie, which I thought was a very nice touch and a nice tie back to one random factoid at the beginning.
and yeah, it's not nothing's made of it. It's just something that's going on.
It's in that list of likes that they cover for everybody they introduce at the beginning, and one of hers is skipping stones, and she just randomly take stones that are nice and flat and will skip well.
Now, my favorite demolishing of the fourth wall had to have been the woman in the coma.
Yes. Again, back with it gets part of Amelie's backstory when she's a kid.
Yes.
And her invented reality because her parents thought she had a heart defect, so they homeschooled her and she was very sheltered. She believed that a neighbor's wife who was in a coma was actually just catching up on a life's worth of sleep. And the minute they explain this, the woman sits up and says something. I forget what
Right.
she said, but yeah.
Yeah, the woman who's supposed to be in a coma, of course, just sits up and just explains, "Yeah, I'm getting catching up on my sleep," and just earnestly breaks the fourth wall, even though she's supposed to be in a coma.
Now, one factoid about Amelie that they mentioned that seemed a little suspect. Said she's had a couple of relationships or a couple of boyfriends, but they didn't go well, and she was disappointed. That's an awfully small sample size to give up. She's been with like two guys, and she's given up on relationships. Either it's a small sample size, and we find out this isn't true in the end, but she could be gay.
True.
They don't really get into why she gave up after like two attempts.
Well, you saw the bored look on her face.
Yeah, well, that's when I thought maybe she's gay,
Yeah.
which she isn't. They established at the end, but
Well, she's always interested in this guy, whether she even knew it or not.
And also I noticed it felt a lot like a Spike Jonze movie.
In some ways, I think, it didn't have the level of absurdity
Not quite
that
as
Spike
absurd, no,
Jonze.
as Spike Jonze, but it was a couple of years after Malkovich,
True.
which I think was probably a big inspiration for it. Just that level of weirdness, I think, was a big part of what inspired the level of weirdness you have in Amelie. Now, my only criticism, I think, is it was a bit long.
You know what? I kept wondering if it's just me and, trying to like squeeze movies into like, you know, just a certain amount of time I've got.
Well, I did that too. I had to watch it in two sittings today. It wasn't that it was too long because we've done longer movies that I've watched in similar situations and not felt that way about. This would be amazing if it was an hour and a half, maybe an hour 20.
Maybe not even that much shorter off it. I'm thinking if they just trim maybe 10 to 15 off it.
Yeah, that would certainly help.
Because I mean, I love all the detail in the beginning.
Yeah.
I just don't know what they could have done without to have kept this whole.
Yeah, it kind of meanders, and
Yeah.
that's the result of only seeing it one time. I think I'm gonna have to see it multiple times to kind of track everybody that she helps and what she does for them because I got a little confused by some of that.
And I could definitely, and it is the mark of a very good movie that you could definitely see this again, and there's probably so much to pick up on.
Yeah. Like they mentioned the crash at the very beginning, the plane crash, and they catch up with that and reference that again at the end with a character they introduced in one scene, like a half hour earlier.
Holy shit.
The concierge.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
And that took me I was like trying to plot that for the rest of the movie, trying to figure out exactly how that made sense.
Well,
Eventually
yeah.
got there, but that's what I mean. I have to see it again, and maybe if I see it a few more times, it won't seem unnecessarily long. Which is odd, because normally, the more you see something, the less you want to see of it.
Yeah.
I also had a little trouble following some of the random conversations in the bar, or in the restaurant/bar she works. They were very quick and kind of, again, random, had nothing to do with the main storyline, so that was a little difficult to track.
Well, yeah, because they all had their other stories going on, and I
That
mean,
they
in that
didn't really
way,
talk about outside of the restaurant, which is
Right.
very realistic, but kind of confused an already confusing movie.
Yeah. So what do you cut then?
That's a good
That's the
question.
question.
Yeah.
What do you cut out of this? It's a tough as hell decision to make because there's
Well,
just
that's why I think it may be more a function of not seeing it enough times.
hmm.
You know, Just to reference the great one again, Shane, his movies are confusing as hell, but I have faith that if I see it a few more times, I'll understand it. I don't have as much faith with this one, but I think if I see it a few more times, it'll make more sense, and it won't feel as long.
You're probably right.
I'll once I become familiar with everything that's going on, it'll track better, and it'll seem more cohesive. Now, onto the produce vendor, Mr. Collignon.
Yes.
I like how they kind of show her gradual anger with him before the revenge.
Yeah, it wasn't just it wasn't a complete turn in character that it did build.
She's at his shop maybe 3 or 4 times and getting progressively angrier with how he's treating his assistant Lucienne.
And even tried to like speak up a bit for him, to like get him off his back.
It's treated very realistically until she actually gets the key and breaks into the
Right.
switches his toothpaste for foot cream, old gag, and does something with the electrics.
Uh, I'm not entirely sure what she did. I think she just changed bulbs or whatever, different types of bulbs.
Perhaps there was a small explosion.
Well, that was she fucked with the wiring.
Yeah,
I'm not sure exactly what she put in his was it his cognac?
I didn't catch that.
Well, she did it the first time.
Hmm.
Like she poured some white powdery substance in there. He didn't actually drink it until after the second time. So it was like a long setup.
Okay.
She poured something in the first time she was in there, but he didn't drink it the first time. It wasn't until the second time where he was, feeling like he was losing it and going crazy
Hmm.
that he was like, "Oh, I better have a drink." And of course, she'd fucked with that like an hour earlier in the movie, practically.
And when she came back the second time, that's when I said she's psychotic.
Oh yeah.
Because, okay, she messes with his apartment once. I
Well,
found that kind of amusing.
messing with the wiring, you
Yeah,
could easily say, which is why I'm not gonna disagree with you about her being psychotic, possibly. That's a very good possibility.
yeah. Another odd thing they did was they switched POVs for a moment. I mean, and it's not strictly Amelie's POV for the entire movie, but they spent almost an entire scene in Nino's point of view, the guy she has a crush on, which seemed odd because it dealt with his psychosis as well.
Well, yeah,
He believes that this photo is talking to him, which kind of gives you the idea that they're kind of made for each other.
right.
But it was just odd to see a perspective switch for that long. It kind of became his movie briefly. Very interesting choice.
And the fact that the photo fucks with them.
Yeah, yeah. Much like Amelie's hallucinations mess with her a bit.
It's not even like oh, she's just trying to use you for her collection of photographs.
Hmm.
And he's like, really? He's like, no.
Incidentally, for the 2007 television show Pushing Daisies, ABC sought an Amelie feel with the same chords of whimsy and spirit and magic. Pushing Daisies director Brian Fuller said Amelie is his favorite film. So the network decided they wanted this kind of a feel. Very interesting. You would normally think, the creator of the show had that in mind,
Right.
but they
That
brought
is
him in
very unusual.
specifically for that.
But it was such a big movie.
Mm.
I mean, I think they said it was one of the largest French movies in imported to the
Yeah,
U.S.
it was the the highest grossing French language film released in the U.S. and it grossed over 33 million in limited theatrical release.
And the fact that we're doing this now, I mean, even though this is kind of out of our wheelhouse,
A
but
little
kind of
bit.
in.
Well, it's a cult film. This
Yeah.
has a huge cult following. This came about on Facebook in a discussion with Roberto from Trailer Clash, and I forget how the movie came up. I think Roberto brought it up, and you said you'd never seen it, and I said I'd never seen it, so we decided to put it on the list.
Well, judging from the episodes of Trailer Clash I've heard, I think Roberto has a thing for Audrey Tattoo.
Don't blame him if that is indeed the case. I fully understand that. I'll just say I did some image searches after watching the movie. All right, so I'm pretty much done with my notes. On to sequels and remakes. And there is stuff for sequels and remakes.
Really? Well, I could see them trying to pull off an English version of the film.
I'm actually surprised that that has never been done. I would love to see the Coens take a shot at it because I think they could do it right.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't
Possibly
know.
Spike Jones.
I think yeah, Spike Jones would be the better of the two.
However, on August 23rd, 2013, composer Dan Messe, M-E-S-S-E, I'm guessing on the pronunciation, one
All
of the
right.
founders and members of the band Hem, confirmed speculation that he would be writing the score for a musical adaptation of Amelie to premiere
Oh.
on Broadway.
Oh.
He'll be collaborating with Craig Lucas and Nathan Tyson. Messe also confirmed that he will be composing all of the original music for the show, not using the original score. So guessing it's
Nah.
also going to be in English because it's on Broadway. So here's our English remake.
Actually, you know who'd be a really good director to do this in English?
Okay.
Gilliam.
Yes. Wow.
Because and he would push it into that magical, realistic direction.
And he wouldn't go as far as Jones would, because I
I don't
think
know about
Jones would
that.
probably overdo that.
I don't know about that. I
Well,
think
no,
Gilliam,
because Gilliam can do magical realism.
but after we saw the last movie we reviewed with Gilliam,
Good point. Good point.
you don't think he would push it any further?
Mm. Well, yeah, yeah.
He's still busy with Don Quixote.
Is he still trying to pull that off?
He's back again.
Uh,
That's what I saw a brief thing about it. I didn't get to look into it deeply, but yeah, he's back on the Don Quixote quest.
what is the documentary looking for Don Quixote? Searching for Don Quixote?
I think it is. Yeah.
For those of you unfamiliar, Gilliam's been trying to mount a production of a remake of Don Quixote. I guess it'd be a remake because yeah, there have been film versions for decades now. In fact, there's a documentary about his failed attempt to do it.
Yeah, it has been decades. It has been since the 90s, isn't it?
He actually got very close. He even had casting. Johnny Depp was going to play Don Quixote, and I think the financing fell apart. There's a documentary out there. I think it's called Searching for Don Quixote. Very interesting. Highly recommended.
But yeah, I could see him doing this.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
In some ways, the Fisher King was kind of a forerunner to this,
Yeah.
if you think about it.
Mhm. I have to
Only
rewatch
he,
that one of these days. I found it on Crackle.
only he wasn't as, he was more broken down than she was, obviously, because he had a bigger trauma.
All right, so on to brains.
On the brains.
Really, the only issue I have with the movie is the length. And again, that might fix itself after I see it a couple more times. Other than that, it's bizarre, but brilliant and goes to some really unexpected places. So I'm going 4.5.
Oh wow. I think if they made more rom-coms like this, I'd actually watch them. The I thought it was a little on the lengthy side that might improve like when I watch it again. And there's some things like that I thought were kind of odd. Like yeah,
It's a lot odd.
well, things that didn't quite jive. Like the like she didn't hear about the death of Prince Diana until the next day.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know about you, but if you remember back then that night,
I don't
there
think I heard about it till the next morning either, but I really don't pay much attention to news.
there was no escaping the story. It was like everywhere I went that night. It
Hmm.
was crazy. It was weird because I was like, why do we care so much? Nobody could tell me. But anyway, sorry, Brits. But yeah, that's kind of. So I'm going four.
Okay. And what have we learned?
We learned that cats enjoy overhearing children telling stories.
Hmm. And I learned that even psychotics can be adorable. All right, so until next time when we'll be reviewing Super, this kicks off a request trilogy. This one was requested by William Hewling. Go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I think up to 201, 202. It's a trilogy. One of them is 200. I don't remember which is which. You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. And of course, the recommendations list. I had a feeling this was going to make it to the list just on reputation alone, and then I got about 5 minutes in, and obviously it was going to go there.
I wasn't sure if it was going to make it or not. I mean, I was like, rom-com, are we really going to do that? But yes, if you can stand that sort of thing, you should see it.
You can also email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged,
You can go fuck yourself.
414-368-9861. Always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and of course, until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
Que pensez-vous, Madame Suzanne? Les critiques littéraires sont des cactus qui vivent de leur piquant, parmi les vautours qui vivent de leurs plumes.
Back home, we say a man who knows zombie takeout must not be all bad.
Say that again, you had a little bug on all.
Not, oh yeah, I have it reversed. That's what's going on. Back home, we say a man who knows zombie takeout must not be all bad.
If it happened again, we'll just go with it. The first one was better.
Oh, let me try again.
Okay.
Back home, we say a man who knows zombie takeout.
You really don't punch back as much. You clipped.
Whoa, wait a minute. Let me check my settings if I'm going to clip like that.
You clipped on back pretty hard that time.
Because I'm not like, what's going on here? Let's see. All right, audio settings. Huh?
Normal?
They're
You sound
little
normal.
high.
Okay, because you sound normal. It's just you clipped on. Don't put them too low because it was good. It's good aside from that.
It was pretty high.
Oh.
I mean, it wasn't like super high, but high enough that I should,
Skype bugs are creeping in.
Yeah. All right. Let's try that. I just turned it down a bit. Back home, we say a man who knows zombie takeout must not be all bad.